Hello, I'm Kimberly Parnell, and you are listening to Engaging Texas Families, a podcast from the Parent and Family Engagement Statewide Initiative of Texas. Let's jump into today's episode. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Engaging Texas Families. Today we're joined by Shanceler Terry. Shanceler works as the Director of Family and Community Engagement for the Alief Independent School District in the Houston area. We're excited that Shanceler's joined us today to talk about all things parent and family engagement, just her background and her heart behind what she does. Shanceler, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Kimberly. I am excited to be here today.
Well, we are excited to have you. You do amazing work with our families in the Houston area. You've been a great resource for the PFE initiative for many, many years, and we're delighted to have you. So let's get started. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and just how you got to where you are and into the job that you're in. Maybe tell us a little bit about your family. Just tell us everything we need to know about Shanceler.
Okay, well, get ready for the crazy. Okay, so I would say it's funny how life just takes you on twists and turns. You know, you start out playing with dolls thinking, I'm going to be a teacher my whole life. And that was me. I just knew I'd be a teacher for most of my life, and then a principal, and then a superintendent. And that's just not what happened. And so I've been in education now for 28 years. Started out as a teacher, and way back in the 90s, I was asked to review a grant for after-school programs. And when I read the grant, I just fell in love with it and began my career in after-school programs. As we know, there's a component in after-school that has to do with family and engagement. And I stumbled across that. Being at the secondary level, I was just trying to figure out how to make it work. And we found a fun way to make it work. And it never left my thoughts in regards to, that was pretty cool, impacting families and students at the same time. Following that, I went into grant writing for Alief for quite some years. And with that, never forgot about family and community engagement. And so when the opportunity came to be able to take on leading family and community engagement at Alief, I definitely jumped at it. That was about 13 or so years ago. And so love it and love the work. It's hard work, but it's so worth it. With that, I always tell everyone I am the least qualified to lead family and community engagement because my family is crazy. Most of my kids are in their 20s. One is in her early 30s, and people don't tell you about the 20s. But I have Deja, David, and Dominique, my three grown adulting kids. And then my husband, Anthony, he's in education as well. He's right behind me for 27 years in education as a PE teacher. And I'm telling you, he loves it every single day. For me, even beyond here, although I work with families and adults, I have to have my kid dessert, I call it. Like working with kids is my dessert. So I work with youth for about 27 years through my church here in Houston. And with that, also opened years ago a nonprofit organization that works in after school programs and just helps build up kids during the after school hours. And so I absolutely love working with youth, have had many mentoring opportunities with the girls and so forth. In fact, funny enough, working with youth at my church led to Parent Collective. So I lead a parent collective group. It's almost a year now. And again, I was like, why did you choose me? I'm the least qualified to tell people how to be that parent. And I always tell them no one has the right answer, not even me. And so I really love that. It was a gem that just fell in my lap. And I love how it's come together with working with youth and again, working with parents. And then also I get the great opportunity, and I'll go ahead and brag on my partner in time, not crime, because it was a perfect timing when we met, which actually was after a PFE conference. Maria Ovalle Lopez out of Klein ISD. We lead an annual collaborative conversations here in Houston, where we bring together the local school districts that work in family and community engagement, those who have true boots on the ground, and we come together and we collaborate. It's not a conference, none of that. It's just us talking and sharing ideas. And so that's been, again, another fun thing to do along with Maria and just seeing our folks grow here in Houston. You know, we always believe one family is everyone's family because, you know, it's so transit throughout our nation. One family moves from one place to another. And so we always say in Houston that this might be my parent today, but it could be Maria's parent tomorrow in Klein ISD. And so we are better together if we build that resource and that pot and those strong families. It's going to spread throughout our communities, throughout the entire city. And so I just love working with families and have done a lot with families and also with youth. Yeah, that's a little bit about me. Probably there's more, but yeah, it's a lot.
There's a whole lot there. I love it. You are a busy lady, and I will say the work that you've done with collaborative conversations is amazing. I've had the privilege of being in one of those. Great work, and you said it beautifully. One family is one family, and we all serve them. And so I've loved just watching the collaborative conversations piece because everybody has an equal seat at that table. And it is cool to watch just the community you've built with the education professionals in Houston. So thank you so much for that work that you do with Maria. I mean, you've had a lot of opportunities that have created a lot of connection and relationship building. How do you see those skills informing your work at Alief?
Well, going back to when I was an after school coordinator, I remember with secondary, again, trying to figure out how do you make family engagement work at the second grade level. And I remember one day a mother walking in and she just looked exhausted. And so they would come and sign out their children. And she came a little bit early. And I just paused and said, "How are you?" The weirdest question I could have asked because I don't think she had been asked that question. You know, as parents, we are people too. And in that moment, that light bulb just went off that, hey, I'm not just serving kids, I'm serving parents too. And so I think that's what fired me up about looking at a different way to do family and community engagement, even at the secondary level. Kind of, I called it putting it as a sandwich, where it was like we had fun. So it was a fun event, like a family talent show. Then in the middle, we would do the education of families and parents. And then at the end, we'd bring the fun right back in. And so we called it info mission instead of intermission, info mission. So we just put it right in the middle. And so I realized that you've got to connect the fun with the education. And I feel like also being a teacher and wanting parents to understand what was going on in my classroom. Before I even knew what family and community engagement is, I feel like I was doing that in my classroom. I would consistently send out videos and talk with parents and newsletters and all those things in my classroom because I wanted to build a community. And I think that also stuck with me, that the importance of parents and teachers partnering together, that's how we get a win for our students. We have to have that partnership. And then also, I think talking with youth over the years. I can tell you stories that would bring you to tears and stories that would make you fall on the floor laughing. But working with youth, especially middle and high school, I've heard a lot of stories and I've walked with youth through many situations and brought their families in to what was going on to help them be informed. And I realized that conversations between children and parents, they weren't happening. And not to say overall, but in a lot of places that wasn't happening. So really making a space and remembering that also coming into the work that we do here in Alief, that's important. We always tell our parents, read with your child, talk with your child, move and play with your child, eat with your child. Just four simple things that can truly change the relationship between a parent and a child, as well as those four things are huge in regards to academic success as well.
Absolutely.
And so little things like that. And we always ask our parents at the beginning of the year, can you commit to one? Well, if you think about it, you've probably committed to all four at some point. But they're like, yeah, I can commit to one. And so I think just bringing in those experiences has really helped me determine what are the things we need to focus on as we move throughout family and community engagement.
Yeah, I think sometimes we think it has to be a big, huge thing, and just the simple conversation at dinner or when you're riding in the car. I think we forget just the importance of those, and sometimes that our parents and us, we just need that reminder of like the skills it builds in our kids. You know, for a preschooler, it builds the ability to make vocabulary words put together to make a sentence. But for our middle and high school kids and even our young adults, those are great skills that they need later on in the workforce. And so I think we forget about just those simple things. Those are great reflections.
Yeah, and it looks different at different stages.
Absolutely.
It absolutely looks different, where you could sit down and read to a 5-year-old. I don't think most juniors in high school are going to allow you to do that.
Probably not.
So that may look like something a little bit different.
That's right.
So so it's always important, I think, as parents to just keep in mind we're not perfect.
That's right.
I told my it was something I told my 20-year-old, but I think she remembered it later. And I said, hey, this is the first time I've ever had a 27-year-old. And this is the first time you've ever been 27. And so we're both trying to figure this out. And so we have to have grace for each other. And I think more parents need to have grace for themselves. It's okay. It's okay to mess up. We all do. And then just get up and keep moving, and we'll do better next time.
That's right. I love that. Such good wisdom. Hey, what are some common misconceptions that you've seen that hinder family engagement? And then what advice would you give to an educator, a teacher, administrator to overcome those challenges?
I think the number one misconception is this: it is one person's job. And it is not. It is everyone's job. It is the principal's job. It is the parent's job, the child's job, even the custodian's job. I think it's important that if we want to truly make family engagement move forward, we have to own it. Everybody has to own it. I always tell this story about a custodian at one of my son's schools. And he was trying to decide between would he stay in our district and go here, or did he want to go to school in the neighborhood where his friends were, his neighborhood friends, his church friends. And I said, well, you get to make the decision. Well, he hadn't seen the school in our neighborhood, so we drove him there. And we was like, okay, it was a Sunday. And I said, this is what the school looks like, or whatever. We went to the front door. I knew the door would be locked. Well, lo and behold, it was unlocked. And me and my son, David, and my husband, we walk in and we're like, oh, wow, okay. And the custodian came over, not, what are you doing in here? Why are y'all here? He said, hey, how can I help you? I said, well, our son's thinking about what school to go to. And he said, oh, well, welcome. He says, do you play any sports? He's like, yeah, basketball. He took time, walked us to the basketball court. He said, this is what the gym looks like here. Then he went, unlocked the ball, gave the ball to my son and said, go ahead, shoot around. See what it feels like to play basketball here. Guess what school my son went to?
Wow.
And it was about that welcoming environment. The custodian said it's my job too to engage families. And I think, it's important that everyone plays a part in family and community engagement. And then I would say probably the second misconception is that family engagement does not impact student learning. It's a dessert and not a main course, not a part of the main course, when it actually is. If our kids spend 80% of their time at home, how much more is it important that we build those homes, that we put information in the hands of our families? Strong homes, and this is what we say here, strong homes, that means strong kids. If we can meet as many needs as possible within that home and build that parent up, or whomever is raising, the caregiver raising the child, we can see an impact on our kids. So it does impact student learning. So it's important that not just, state testing, not just teacher development, not just student-centered learning, but also family engagement has to be a piece of that pie and an equal piece of that pie that really moves that moves academic success for our students. So I think that's another one. And I think the last misconception is parents just don't care. We as parents, I always say, if that were the case, they must have really thought I didn't care because I was an educator. I was working after school, which means it was rare that I was there out on the campus. I was what we call an invisible parent. All right. But one thing you knew about me is I was going to email the teacher. If I needed to come up for a conference, I was there. At the beginning of the year, I emailed every individual teacher and just told them about my child and how they learn and what can I do for them to help them, the teacher. And I think parents, we have to get out of that misconception that parents just don't care just because you don't see them as often as you do. There are many families, many parents, many caregivers staying up late at night to help kids with homework, to help kids with a project, to talk them through what they're going through at school. Parents do care. It's a very small percentage that just have a thought of, well, I just don't care. And not as many as people think there are. So I think those, for me, are the top three misconceptions that I see a lot. I'm excited that we've taken an approach where we're reaching out and we're pulling in our first and second year teachers. That's required training for them that they get family and community engagement. So soon, every teacher in the district would have family engagement training. Is it as much as we want? No, but it's a start. It's 8 hours, and we'll take that because before that wasn't in place. And so I think it's important in order to make it everyone's job, though, we have to make sure people are trained to do it.
Right. I think the further we get and see the academic impacts of parent and family engagement, I think the more we realize that our teachers are coming out of college and they don't have any kind of training. And it's like the secret sauce that we know needs to be there, but nobody's trained them in any way to do the work that is so important. And so I love that you guys have made that a priority in your district. I'm sure there's a lot of people now that are going to be knocking down your door to say, tell me what you're doing. I want to know.
I love it. Yeah. One thing I'd add too is, throughout the state of Texas, we know we're going through a teacher shortage.
Right.
Right. And so a lot of are focusing on associate teachers or however you may be calling them. People are calling them different things, but where they're coming in and they're giving them a few years to get their certification, but they're not certified teachers yet. And I think more than ever, they need that training. So when you talk about, folks coming straight out of college, many of them are coming out and into education, not even studying education in college. And so that's huge. That's even a bigger reason as to why we have to provide that training for all of our staff. Dr. Karen Mapp always talks about that dual capacity training, and I didn't get it at first in regards to, I had to really sit down and dig into it. And I'm like, this makes complete sense. If not, you have families running through the door and teachers saying, wait, why are you here? And then if you do it the opposite way, teachers are running and saying, come in, parents. And they're like, why? We don't get it.
Right.
And so, everyone together has to be trained to understand the importance of it. And also just how do we do this? What does it look like?
Right. What does the conversation look like? What does the phone call home look like?
Yeah.
What does the piece of paper telling you about the Valentine's party need to look like?
Yes.
It is all an essential piece. I think, too, there is, as we get older, I feel like the gap kind of gets a little bit bigger. And those, teachers that are coming straight out of college, they don't know what a life is like without a smartphone. And so, I think I don't know that I ever sent a text message to a parent in my teaching career, which is probably aging me right now, but that's how they communicate. And so what does that look like? Those are all great points. Well, I want to switch gears just a little bit. I know you have a love and a heart for mentoring family liaisons. So tell us a little bit about that. What does that look like in Alief? Why do you have such a heart for it, and why do you feel like it's such an important piece?
I love, love, love when new folks come into education, first of all. I love the mentoring piece. I love walking people through life and through experiences. And so that's a part of, I guess that's just innately a part of me. But to walk someone through and explain the importance of family engagement is so huge to me. In Alief, we have four pillars: welcomed, engaged, informed, and equipped. And so with that, it's a lot going on in Alief because we're trying to ensure our families feel welcomed. We want them to not just be involved, but engage, have a voice, have a seat at the table. So that looks like FAME committees on our campuses, families actively and meaningfully engaged. That looks like, which I'm so super excited about, our superintendent, Dr. Anthony Mays, who has a family ambassadors committee. 60, 70 parents show up. They actually show up
Wow.
in person. And most of them, we made it where it's a representative from every campus. So some have two or three representatives, and we empower them. We say, you are our ambassadors to go out and take the message about what's going on. So when they come, each time they come, they're taking notes and they take their job seriously. They're like, we're going out to spread the word about what's going on, and we're bringing back information to tell you how to better serve our students and our families. We also want our families to be informed. We want them really to know what's going on in the district and on the campuses. And this big piece, which leads to the mentorship of the new liaisons, equipped. We want our families to be equipped, but in order to equip our families, our staff, they have to be equipped. We have to be able to put the right tools in their hands. This is a hard job. So we have to be careful not to just throw people in this job and say, good luck. I had one liaison tell me, we just did end of year summatives and stuff, and she said, I feel like I had a full year the first semester, and the second semester was my second year, and I was ready to go. Because the first semester, we do a lot of what we call rookie trainings. So we have trainings. They come together quite often throughout the month to make sure, do you have questions? What do you need? How can we help you problem solve? It's a hard job, but it is such a rewarding job. When you see a parent get a job, when you see a parent connect with their child, it's such a rewarding job. They have boots on the ground, and it's important that we equip them too. They are our connectors. They are the ones connecting the families to the schools. They're the first face a lot of times, probably the first conversations that a parent may have with someone on the campus. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's important. And, our family liaisons and family educators throughout the state, they can make or break the perception of our schools and communities.
Absolutely.
Because, and it's so funny because we have two early learning centers where our 4-year-olds come. And I'm very, very, very selective of who's placed there. And I tell my staff that because that's important. That is their first experience with Alief ISD. So whoever that is, I need them to be friendly, lively, exciting, creative, because they are the first face. They are our message carriers, and they help calm a lot of fears.
Sure.
You think about what we've gone through with COVID and recently with political changes and things like that folks are like afraid in different ways. And it's like, they are the ones sitting with the parents saying, hey, it's going to be okay. We're going to walk you through this. And I think their job, emulates it. And I have this quote that I keep next to my desk, and it says, the marvelous richness of human experience would lose something of rewarding joy if there were no limitations to overcome. The hilltop hour would not be half so wonderful if there were no dark valleys to traverse. Mm. And I love that quote because it talks about, yes, this job is hard, but those hilltop moments are so beautiful.
And so worth it.
Yeah, we can't enjoy it without going through that walk.
I love it. I love your heart about it. Shanceler, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate your time and just your wisdom and insight on the importance of parent and family engagement in our state and beyond, and what that looks like for us as education professionals. We hope everyone will join us again on our next episode of Engaging Texas Families.